All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us here this afternoon. My name is Jared Weston and I'm with GradLeaders Athletics. Our goal for the conversation today is simply just to generate an opportunity where student athlete development professionals from around college athletics can come together and just discuss challenges, opportunities, and share ideas. We've got a great group of panelists with us today who've offered to share some insight into their programs and how they've continued to encourage, support, and serve their student athletes during these challenging times. Before we get to the panelists, I want to encourage everyone to submit all your questions via chat, and we'll get to those here throughout the discussion. So let's meet our panel. Amy?
Hi there, everyone. My name is Amy Hurd. I serve as our Senior Associate Athletics Director for Leadership Development at Texas Tech. I spent about 15 years in fundraising here at Texas Tech, my undergrad and master's both from Texas Tech, and oversee now our leadership development, which includes the Talkington Leadership Academy. And that's what I'm excited to talk to you guys about today.
Hey all, I am Lauren Unrein and I am the Assistant Director of the Scripps Leadership and Career Development Program here at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And similar to Amy, I was actually a fundraiser in the Buff Club with CU Athletics for about 5.5 years and oversaw our annual fund team, and then moved into this role and oversee career development for about 2 years. So excited to share with everyone today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Mcentire, Director of Student Athlete Development at Ohio State. We realized really quickly that we all had development backgrounds and then student athlete development. So similar to the other two women, I started in fundraising at Ohio State. And about 2 years ago, we started the Eugene D. Smith Leadership Institute, which embodies student athlete development at Ohio State. And that's what I oversee today.
Thank you. And thank you again for taking the time and sharing some insights with us all here today. We've all certainly been impacted by the global pandemic in varying ways, but Lauren, would you mind starting us off and just sharing a little bit about how you and your team have adapted your priorities and the programs to meet the evolving needs of your student athletes?
Sure, Jared. Yeah, one of the big things that we wanted to focus on as a program and as an athletic department as a whole was really just making sure that we were communicating with our student athletes in a very efficient but also effective manner too, so that we weren't sending out a barrage of emails from a bunch of different departments about different topics. So really making sure we were streamlining communications to student athletes, that our department within leadership and career development was really helping to promote whatever department was focusing on as well, whether that was mental health or nutrition or what have you. And then on the career side specifically, just making sure that student athletes still knew we were here, that we were still working with them to provide resources, whether they're seniors graduating and trying to navigate getting a job in uncertain times, or sophomores, freshmen, what have you, looking at internships, still providing those resources to them, but really understanding what their capacity was, where they were at. So again, we did a few surveys with our student athletes to hear what was kind of top of mind for them and their focuses. And then just again, making sure that our communication was really streamlined and impactful so they knew what our department as a whole was doing.
Yeah, thank you. And Amy, I know at Tech, you all are very intentional about your holistic approach to student athlete wellness. How have you been able to continue supporting and celebrating your student athletes here these past couple months?
Thanks, Jared. Yep, we really work hard to be holistic in nature and really work across the entire department, even outside the Leadership Academy, on the needs of our student athletes. So we work closely with our sports psychology and mental health team, and really quickly everything shifted to making sure our students were okay first, and that included mental health in a huge way. And then figuring out, definitely to Lauren's point, how do we communicate clearly and effectively and efficiently, knowing that they had a lot of communication coming at them from very different perspectives. And then also making sure, knowing the end of the semester was coming and graduation, did we have the resources where they could get to them or get to us around job searches or grad school, kind of that what next for some of our student athletes who were moving on from Texas Tech.
Well, and that's one of the things too that I think a lot of folks and student athletes are facing are, what they thought they had an internship lined up, coming for the summer. Some of those have been rescinded. And so I assume that falls back, on your plate to help them, continue a search or try to fill that void, right?
Well, and as the spring semester, spring's competition, changed, some of those students are coming back that maybe thought they would not be, or others are moving on. And so we had to adjust and help those students kind of think about their options, and then we also wanted to make sure we were celebrating our students that were graduating. And this group has had some virtual graduations. We're still waiting on ours, but how do we celebrate them? How do we celebrate the senior days that a lot of those kids missed, on the field or court? And how do we help them be part of that? We did our gala, our Red and Black gala virtually. And it was a different format for sure. We celebrated academics and their community impact and didn't celebrate the athletic accomplishments just because a lot of those seasons were canceled. But changing the format still gave us a platform to celebrate with our students, which we were proud of, that we were able to do that.
Yeah, that's great. Maddie, at Ohio State, I know obviously wellness is a key focus for you all, but another top priority you had mentioned on our previous call was the placement of your seniors. Can you talk a little bit about that and how the city of Columbus really rallied around this most recent group of graduating seniors?
City of Columbus has been incredible. So we have worked really hard on our partnerships with the Columbus Partnership, Smart Columbus, and One Columbus. And each of those separate branches have a really significant impact on the economic growth of the city. And so we started working on this partnership about 2 years ago. Every time a new business talks about coming to Columbus, the Leadership Institute at Ohio State is one of the first things that the incoming business sees. So for example, Amazon came to Columbus about 2 years ago and has a lot of their logistics centers are housed here. And so we were a part of that conversation to start streamlining some of our student athletes that are in supply chain management or logistics into that Amazon facility or into their talent pipeline. And it was really, really cool to see the way that they rallied around us. There was obviously needs. Another example, Rogue. If any of you guys in your strength and conditioning centers have Rogue strength equipment, that was founded by a former women's basketball player here, and they went into the mask business right away. And so we had student athletes going there to help them with marketing their masks. And it was just a really fun time to see Columbus come together and how much you were supporting both our graduating seniors and getting internship experience for some of the kids that, like you mentioned, had offers rescinded.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you said, it's great to see the city and the business community come around, especially in times like these. I think everywhere across the country, whether it's on social media or you see how this pandemic is bringing people closer together, and it's especially as athletic departments, everyone's looking out, trying to help each other, and so it's neat to see how something so tragic as this can bring good and really inspire connection. So that's good. Another area that always seems to be a hot topic is student athlete engagement, right? And it's not only how do we get them engaged, but how do we keep them engaged? Obviously, that's even a little bit more difficult now in the virtual landscape, but each of you have unique programs that seem to have resonated well with your student athletes. And Amy, would you mind talking a little bit about your Suited for Success program and how you've enhanced and evolved that over the last couple of years?
Sure. Suited for Success is our flagship program. Early on, really understood and saw the value in that first piece of wardrobe that you had when you went to your first job interview and just had how it made you feel good. And that donor really stepped forward and helped us build the vision and then put it in motion financially, where we're able to award our students a suit at the end. So it quickly became our keynote program. It is a series, sixth year with the program. And so over the years, we've been able to build and add on to it, which makes a huge difference. We have an application process, although certainly our intention is to allow all student athletes that are interested and willing and putting in the time and effort to participate. We're going to allow them to participate. We've had over 100 this year participate, which is our largest class, open to juniors and seniors. And really, we try to take them from building a resume, writing that resume, critiquing the resume, and then we go into professional image. How do you run a meeting? How do you apply for a job? All those things. We have a networking night. We have a mock interview night, and then we ultimately finish with a celebration dinner, which is kind of a continuation of the networking night. Really, everyone who has participated in the series comes together, and for us, I think, and I'll probably say this a couple times, but our partnerships in Lubbock are part of what makes it successful. Our Career Center is a huge part of our Suited for Success, so we partner closely with our main campus Career Center. And then we're also working more and more closely with some of the newer career centers that are college-based, so College of Business, College of Engineering, the law school, career-wise, they all have different career centers, and so our students can engage with both groups along with our team. So it's really been a great program to give the students skill sets, opportunities to practice in a safe environment when they're nervous, and it's their first interview, and then hopefully go on and nail them that real first interview for the job they're looking for.
Yeah. It's all about experience, right? Just reps, just like in athletics, just the more reps, the more routine it becomes. That's great. Maddie, your Buckeye Futures program, I think, again, you mentioned was one of the favorites of the student athletes. And I love how you incorporate a couple different constituents in that program. Do you want to share a little bit how that program came about, and then again, how maybe you've modified the reach of that here now that we're in the virtual environment that we are?
Yeah, so it originally started obviously in person, like I think a lot of our programs, but it was the first one that, number one, there's no cost to us. So actually what we did do, the only cost incurring from it is the podcast. It was 150 goes on Google Play, Spotify, on all of which was really cheap for us. And what we do is we have a CEO or a C-suite level donor or potential prospect or just someone within the city of Columbus. Student athletes really want to work at that specific company, and we pair that with their head of talent acquisition or HR recruiter, whoever that person is for their company, and we do a deep dive kind of into their career development for the first 30 minutes. And then the second 30 minutes is focused on the graduate school professional that corresponds with enhancing that career path. So, I'll give university on for higher education. They'll obviously be paired with the department down at NC State. So really cool, just partnering with alum, former athletes. And it's also a great engagement tool. The month of July, we're focusing on former athletes and letting our coaches help identify prospects that they might not have been or known how to reach out to. And so they're going to hop on. They're helping us identify who those people are going to be for the month of July. And then get their teams kind of involved, engaging with that specific alumni. So we're really excited. We've done a variety of different, reasons why, the month of June for us is the top 50 companies the student athletes want to work for. The first month was young alum, young former student athlete alum. So we've kind of shifted the different months, and then we released the podcast the next morning. So it's been really fun.
That's great. And I think you had shared, you had an international student who was eager to listen in. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, he's from India, and it was 3 a.m. his time, and he was like happy as a clam, all suited up with his like tie, and I was sitting there in Ohio State athletics polo, not feeling great about myself. So it's been great, and we've actually found that more of them listen to the podcast. We've been getting about 300 to 400 listens on each session, after the fact, whereas we only get, 25 to 40 kids actually joining the conversation. So it's just kind of been an interesting translation. They're actually listening to the podcast based off kind of the age analytics that you can pull and stuff like that. So it's been fun, interesting to learn them this way.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good just evolving too, right? I mean, that the reach, the continued viability of having those conversations and sharing them, I think is great for others that aren't even able to be there right now. So it's good. Lauren, at Colorado, you also talked about some industry specific programming that you all have done. You want to share how that's been received and the engagement by the student athletes and
Yeah, so we do events both in the fall and spring that are really tailored to specific verticals or industries that our student athletes are interested in. And we get a lot of that information from them through a survey or the one-on-one meetings that we have with student athletes and just collecting that data as well. So we have that in one particular event that we did this spring was actually a pro sport and, the fall was a pro sports and outdoor industry networking night. And we're very lucky to be in Boulder, Denver area where we have kind of this variety of industries. And so VF Corp, who owns Timberland, North Face, Vans, what have you, they moved a lot of their headquarters to Denver. So have really been able to tap into that resource, and they're phenomenal partners and student athletes love to connect with them. So we really found that a lot of our success in engagement is really tailoring it to what the student athletes are interested in, but then still putting in there what we know that they need to hear, what we want them to hear as well, to make sure that some of this information, whether it's kind of hitting home why they need a resume or to practice those interview skills, what have you, is built into something that they're really excited about and want to learn more about that as well too. So figuring out what their interests are, what their passion is, and how you can tie that into your programming. We saw a lot of success with those, and moving that, as Maddie and Amy both mentioned, to webinars, different things virtually, but still keeping that same core of what our programming is and what we really want to provide to our buffs.
Yeah, I think it's key. And, again, with the challenges that this has presented, I think too, these are some opportunities that have presented themselves, to take a in-person, event and turn into a weekly podcast or, webinars that have a longer shelf life, and can be advantageous again for other classes, and people that can't make it, I think is great. We talked about the internships a little bit, and also with some former student athletes, being experienced professionals at this point, looking for work. What kind of support do you offer from a search or placement type service for your current and then also former student athletes, as they're kind of in that process? It's kind of a double question there with current student athletes, but then also now with some of the former student athletes. Lauren?
Sure, yeah, we are working with a lot of, or some recent graduates as well, helping them navigate this process too, whether they're just coming back from playing professionally or finishing that graduate school too. So we're very lucky as a department. We actually have our own career platform that we use for student athletes where jobs and internships are. We tie in a lot with Handshake that the university uses too. So really relying on those resources, but then also just connecting with that buff network, whether it's through the different events that we've had, as Amy and Maddie have both mentioned the importance of those companies locally. So our teams here in Boulder and then our alums across the country have been really phenomenal in helping us navigate, whether it is just an informational interview or networking. We all know how important that network is to getting that job or, internship next steps. So really relying on that and making sure we're a resource. And for us right now, partnering with our Alumni C Club organization to make sure that our former student athletes know we're here as a resource, whether they're looking for a job or if they're at an organization that is fortunate right now to have that capacity for new placement or positions for student athletes, to making sure we're really helping to be a voice and resource for both of those sides.
Yeah, I think that's great. Just, obviously when they're on campus, being that support system, but again, as they go on to their careers, being able to continue to lean on the department, I think, is key. Maddie, what about the Bucks Gopro internship opportunities that you guys have put together?
Yeah, so we have two different Bucks Gopro internship programs, and the first one, Bucks Gopro 1.0, really has a focus on the professional development side of a student athlete. So we target freshmen and sophomores for that program 2 days out of the week, our professional development sessions, and then the other 3 days out of the week, they're either interning within a department in athletics or on the university side. And we've really been able to expand that. The university has been amazing. Back 2014, gosh, I was a Bucks Gopro intern. And it was only within the athletic department, and there was 14 of us, and now there's 50, and the campus police and CFO's office and everyone. It's really been cool to see the university kind of help us expand it. And so the student athletes are paid $11 an hour, and again, that's only 8 weeks, so it's June and July. And we started to realize the student athletes weren't gravitating towards it if they didn't want to have a career in sports or higher education. And so we took that to the next step. So Bucks Gopro 2.0, we're not the most creative bunch. So 2.0 is for all of our corporate partners. We actually pay for the internship because we ask all companies to be flexible with the time. So it's only 240 hours. Same with the Bucks Gopro 1.0 program. And that program has just really taken off for us. We were going to place 100 student athletes there and 50 in the 1.0 program, but they were all, of course, canceled. So we're going to do another virtual type of program during those same weeks that we surveyed those student athletes and asked what they still want to learn. And so we're going to still do little 30-minute sessions really quick on the topics that they were hoping to still learn from the professional development or from the jobs. So we're going to start those first week of June. But it's been great. I mean, with the pandemic, we were still able to, about half of the employers said that they would actually pay for the student athletes to work and from a virtual perspective, because that's what they were doing with their other interns. And our student athletes are actually able to work more, arguably, and more in a full-time capacity with the other kids. So it actually has benefited a lot of them. So it's been really cool to see.
That's great. Amy, would this be an extension or kind of the culmination of the Suited for Success there at Tech?
It is. So really the Suited for Success program starts, we have a sophomore scouting report, everything career-wise, goes into Suited for Success. So when they're sophomores, they're started beginning that process, looking for the job, looking for what industry they want to be a part of. And then they have some job shadowing. So again, the timing is a challenge for a lot of our student athletes and partners professionally. So we really rely on building a large bank of professionals, whether that is from our former student athletes, obviously the local business community. We work with the chamber, we work with our economic development unit for Lubbock, and then we also work with our partners at Learfield and the corporate partners, and just try to make sure all those individuals know about the program, and if they're interested in participating, we have different ways. So job shadowing is one, the networking night is another, mock interviews is another. And then we don't have a fully developed internship program yet. So that's an area we're still working to grow. And we do a career tour. And last year was our first one. This year it's changed because of the pandemic, but we do a career tour that gives them more of that shadowing experience and really is very honed in on what they want to do after graduation.
And speaking of the corporate partners, Maddie, the relationship you have with Ohio State sports properties and the formalized process that you all do with them, with your graduating seniors, I think is great. Would you mind sharing a little bit about how that was developed and what that process looks like?
Yeah, IMG's been incredible for us. I was telling the group a week ago when we were talking, we have a meeting every month starting in January, and we go through all of our graduating seniors, and we include everyone on our development team, the Leadership Institute staff, and then a couple representatives from IMG that represent Ohio State on that side. And we go through each senior, where they want to live, where they want to work, what they want to do, what companies are interested in. And IMG has just been instrumental in helping connect. I would say, especially this year, that we were much more strategic in our approach and organized, and their ability to, the contacts that they have are so different than the ones we have. we get so focused on who are donors, who are former athletes, and they kind of helped provide an area. Like we had a student athlete that wanted to go into agriculture, and they were like, we know the president of the Ohio Beef Council. And I'm like, great. I would have never thought of that. So they've just been really helpful. And when they go out to try to secure new clients as well, they have a page in there on really building a pipeline of talent out of our student athletes. And so we've been able to, right when they secure a client, we send them a survey from the Leadership Institute that essentially explains what we do. And then here's all our programs. Which ones do you want to be involved in? How much do you want to be involved in them? And that was actually how we started building out back in March when we originally went into quarantine. That was how we did our first Buckeye Future sessions, was because the IMG clients had identified that they wanted to be a part of it. So it kind of rolled right over for us almost perfectly.
Yeah, that's great. We had a question come in. Maddie, do the internships count towards their degree, the Bucks Gopro internships?
Yeah, they do. So we actually had a long time ago, before I was in this role, the Bucks Gopro 1.0 program was still running. And the university actually helped us structure the Bucks Gopro program. So it's 180 hours, which aligns with a lot of their internship requirements. We primarily see student athletes asking for internship credit in the 1.0 program because they tend to get it done earlier in their career. But we only had 6 in the 2.0 program, and we had 28 in the 1.0 program. So that's kind of how it broke out for us this year.
Good, thank you. With regards to, we all measure success a little bit differently. What metrics do you have in place to measure or to gauge the success of your various programs? Lauren?
Sure. So we obviously do participation based on our events and use that as a big metric, but really trying to take it a step further than just participation as a KPI, but also looking at what's the learning gain from student athletes. What are they really taking away that we can show as a department that's kind of changing their placement rate, whether it's after graduation or after they play professionally, and even internally too. So setting up some specific milestones for student athletes based on their academic year, whether it's completing a resume or their LinkedIn profile, participating in a mock interview, building their own personal brand or mission statement as well. So really trying to kind of graduate from just, 95% completed a personal development event this semester to, okay, what's that next step and how can we really see that they're getting out of the program what we want them to, and how can we start measuring that, like those mock interviews and making sure that all Buff student athletes have that skill of effective business communication. Can they send a professional email? Can they participate in a mock interview or reach out to someone for an informational interview as well? So not just looking at 10 of them did that, but they did that and then now they're going on into X, Y, and Z. So we're not quite to the point where we can track their placement totally yet, but we're certainly working to that. And I think that will be a big factor and really show what we've been able to do, but also still being cognizant that student athletes might like to take time off when they graduate or go play professionally or go on to grad school too. So really recognizing their unique aspects and then making sure that our metrics are meeting that and not just going off of what our business school or engineering school might have as well. So continuing to tailor our program and make that individual too.
I think that's good. Amy, what about you all? I think you had talked about how, and again, not just exclusively with Students for Success, but how that used to be a kind of a senior thing, and then you've backed it up to juniors, and now even there's a sophomore component. Again, all by design, but is that something that was based on some metrics that you were seeing?
Yeah, I think a lot of the kind of that Lauren mentioned we use too, and a lot of those things we're trying to develop. Staff that are really focused on career have done a great job helping us track and develop more metrics. Adding the sophomore and junior, and then now components after for graduate school, those have all been important. And really I think our biggest metric is engagement. If the students are engaging, and that's really with Destiny and Katie, then we know the program is doing what we want it to do. We want it to have questions Our Suited for Success now has an application process, and that, again, that engagement has shown us that they're wanting to be involved. So that's a metric that we rely heavy on. It's not one that we can track perfectly, but if they're engaged, we feel like they want to learn more, they want to add programs, they want to know more about what we're doing, in addition to participation. And then for us in the athletics department as a whole, celebrating success is one of our pillars, and we want to make sure we're doing that too. So we're working on celebrating when they either are accepted to graduate school or begin graduate school, or when they get that first job. So those are some of the things that Destiny and our career team are working on as well.
Good. Maddie, what does that look like at Ohio State?
So our athletic director, Gene Smith, always says that he started in the business world and then came over to Ohio State. So a lot of what we did was he wanted me to go out into the business world and say, how does Abercrombie and Fitch, for example, measure the success of their leadership development program that they have, or a rotational internship program. So we went and had assistants from Cardinal Health, from Abercrombie and Fitch, and all of these companies that are headquartered in Columbus, and say, how do you guys measure success? And a lot of that had to do with placement, right? So if we have these 3 pillars that are leadership development, career development, and personal development, and if all of them are working, then our student athletes, our seniors, should have jobs before they graduate. And so we rely really heavily on that number. We always report it out on the 18th of May. So essentially saying, where do our student athletes fall, not 6 months from graduation, but where do they fall relatively close to when grades are reported. So that, I would say, is our most important metric that we really measure success based on, because we believe that then that tells us that all of our other programs are working in the right direction. But then we obviously have programmatic goals amongst every program. So for example, our internships, Bucks Gopro 2.0, ideally occurs the summer going into their junior year. And so if that's the case, they still have one more summer where they need an internship. And so, for example, for that program, success would be measured if that company offers them to come back and be, a member of their team outside of one of our programs, helping, our original leadership programs. A lot of it's very, very practical. If you're in our Wilson Leadership Academy and the goal of that program is to learn yourself as a leader, then do you become a captain? And if you don't, then why? Then we weren't successful in helping develop you. So a lot of that, again, our AD Gene always laughs and says, I'm very business minded. And so I think it's a little bit different, but it's been great. So that's really how we've met. During quarantine, one of the things he asked is how many student athletes are accepting jobs per week. So we were tracking how much have we fallen off between last year and this year because of COVID. And so that's really, and how many did we shift? Like last year, we only had 32 seniors go to graduate school. This year, we're having 58. So is that due to COVID? Is that just a complete change amongst our student athletes? So we're heavily data driven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. And again, you measure what matters, right? So I think that's how you grow and adapt the programs to continue to meet those evolving needs of our student athletes. Speaking about former student athletes, donors, other departments on campus, just interested to hear how you all have engaged those different groups to, again, whether it's further engage your student athletes or just to enhance your programs and provide another level of support, whether it's mentoring, networking, those types of things. Amy, would you mind sharing a little on that?
Sure. I think the partnerships are so key. And for us, the way we developed them, was kind of, I guess, what you would call grassroots, but you would, go to people that you knew. We're fortunate at Texas Tech in that the university as a whole wants to support each other, and that includes athletics. And so when we were going through this idea, we quickly went to the Career Center, and the person that runs the Career Center and I knew one another. I knew they were a sports fan, and we just said, how do we help our student athletes? Physically, the Career Center is located across campus, which we could all walk there. It wasn't that it was that far away, but it does become a challenge. And so we quickly worked to how do we, set up the series where the Career Center comes to buildings that our student athletes are familiar with to lead the sessions and give them the resources. How do we work the Career Center into our freshman course so that they at least know it's a service from the very beginning that they can utilize. And I think you just, looking for those people that are willing to help, that want to help, and then figuring out how to get them to help. And we had some, set up some things so that both groups won. Our Career Center wanted to increase engagement. And so we were able to help do that because our students were coming to the sessions. We could increase their engagement too because they were leading those things. So helping find those joint wins. The Career Center was huge for us, and other partnerships kind of came along after that. So whether it was a student that was participating that was in the business school, and then because they were in the business school, their professor learned more about our program, and then their professor told the Career Center at the College of Business, and then that partnership was formed. Or last year, Destiny worked with the law school Career Center when we had a speaker. And so that speaker spoke to our series, but also spoke to the law school that night. So, reaching out in those kind of ways. If you have a great speaker coming in, maybe just sending a note to all of your Career Center partners on campus and, hey, if you want to work with us or if we can help. Early on, we just invited some of those folks to our sessions to see what it was like.
Yeah, use the resources that are there, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Lauren, how about out at Colorado?
Sure, yeah, I think Amy made some great points. For us, it was really important, again, to tie in to those donors, those folks who are former student athletes as well. So we do a Life After Football event for all of our football student athletes where we have former Buffs come in and talk about their experience, whether they played in the NFL, had a cup of coffee at camp, or went on to a different industry, just to give their own perspective and talk about their resources too. And I think it was important for student athletes across all sports to hear from folks who have had similar experiences and then gone on to different roles, because that will validate the student athletes' thoughts or feelings, and then also really help them start to think about what that transition is. So again, utilizing folks who've been in their shoes. And then we've also had a great time partnering with the different academic units on campus, whether it's our business school or engineering. We have a lot of our student athletes who are in our engineering school too. So making sure that we're not reinventing the wheel and that we're helping our student athletes tie into that program too. Our engineering school has a phenomenal program to make sure those students there have internships or access to professionals and networks too. So tying into that, and then again, just leaning on those folks who are raising their hand and they want to participate, like Amy said, and that they're excited about the Buffs or whatever your school is. We also use our program now as kind of an entry point, whether it's for folks who might have been disenchanted with the Buffs, or maybe they're former student athletes and haven't really connected in a while. It's such a great engagement tool for different individuals to get involved. And that first step is if they have the chance to come to an event and talk to a student athlete and share their expertise and advice, then you're really going to have someone who's really bought in and tied into your program and leaves feeling really positive about that experience. And that just, yeah, Amy said it best, it's grassroots, and then folks will go on and say, hey, I went to this Buffs Gopro networking night and loved it, and do you want to join me too? That was how, when we started our career development program, we actually had the most success. Was I had 4 individuals in Boulder who were not necessarily all donors, but really excited about the program and were really intentionally focused on the career success of our student athletes. And they're like, hey, we're going to meet once a month with you, Lauren. We're going to send out 15 emails to our friends. We're going to get folks involved. So that was just utilizing that network was so key and important for us.
Yeah, well, and it's, you think about, some alums that go out and get into the business world and maybe are looking for ways to give back other than just, financial contributions. And that's, talk about paying it forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Maddie, yeah, go ahead, Amy.
And Lauren hit on it, and I should have mentioned it, was the business community, whether it's your Chamber of Commerce or those groups were really helpful for us because they had contact with the businesses locally, and so could just say, did you know Texas Tech runs this program? Let us know if you're interested. And then we were able to build from there. So that was a good group that had business on their minds all the time, and we're looking for talent. And we think our student athletes are great assets to any company that they're a part of. So that really worked out well.
Yeah, Amy, also I saw, I don't remember what the official name, but the internal within your athletic department, the internal professional development initiative that you started maybe this fall.
We have two different internal. So we have for staff, we have a mentor program, and then we have a young professionals initiative as well for our young professionals, because that's a great group too. So not only that wants to learn, but they also want to provide help, so they can provide information to our student athletes also. So it's a good group. Those are two that kind of roll nicely together. And then, like I said, that job shadowing that we put into place this year, Destiny utilized a lot of our athletics folks as well. And so that's been another key. The more you can tie people together, the more they're willing to point out someone else who would be a great asset or help you when you need this thing that's a bit, out of sorts. When you have that one job that you haven't ever had in 6 years, they're able to help you find that person, and that's important.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen. I mean, again, especially in athletics, it's such a small world, and so you're really one conversation away from a plethora, a network across the country, or wherever you're looking to go. Maddie, I know you shared a little bit on how you were leveraging some of the other relationships on campus and in the community, but anything else to add with regards to this and former student athletes?
No, the only other thing that we did, it was kind of one of those things that we'd been saying we were going to do for 2 years, and then we were stuck at home, and it kind of went first on the project list when we thought this was going to be like a temporary stay-at-home thing. But we started a LinkedIn group. We'd kind of been bugging compliance about this. They had been saying no, and we finally got a little bit of clearance, with them posting compliance reminders once a week. But it's been really great. Former athletes, current athletes, and I think truthfully, that's one of the reasons why we've had such a high placement rate still with our seniors, is because we've had a lot of former athletes take chances on our current athletes in terms of full-time jobs, and some even helping with internships in their local communities. So that was really cool. I mean, we sent one email out and have 5,000 members. And so we were like, holy cow. Granted, we have 1 billion alumni, but so take those numbers lightly, but it was really cool. It's been cool to see them come together, and we need to do a better job with the campus stuff. I have a list of notes from Amy's recommendations last time, so we're going to do better with that. But we also have a cool thing. We partner with campus on their strategic partnerships. So they started including a leadership institute. So the top 50 companies that interact with the university, they have a committee that essentially goes in and says, okay, if we're going to go meet with Chase Bank because their second largest headquarters in Columbus, who's all touching them? Why are they touching them? What are we putting in front of them? Instead of all of us units reaching out to them separately. So that's been really, really helpful. And just leveraging everything that we're all asking of them and streamlining everything as well.
That's great. Well, I know we've got some questions coming in. Heather on our team here at Grad Leaders is going to help me facilitate some of this chat. Heather, are you there?
I am. Good afternoon. Hi, ladies. Good to talk to you again. So the first one that we have not come to yet is, what is your advice of where to start if your team consists of one person and you do not have the budget of a Power 5 institution? So specifically with career development aspect and of student development. Any piece of advice for a school like that?
Sure, I'll jump in. So when we started career development 2 years ago, I was a team of one actually until this past August. So started that program from the ground up, and we don't actually have a budget item in the athletic department as well. We're totally donor funded. So that was a unique experience. So we were a lean machine. So really just figuring out, again, the key priorities for your department. And Amy said it best last time we talked, is utilizing the strengths, whether it's your university or your city. So in Boulder, in Denver, tech is a really big industry for us. And again, utilizing those people who want to get involved in a very low cost setting, and you don't have to provide food or anything like that at all of your events. Webinars are a great thing that we've learned about right now. So just being very creative and really figuring out what are your top 3 priorities as a department and how can you execute those with that network.
I'll just add something really quickly. We've been really surprised. We went to an endowment model. And so when we thought we had, a couple $1 million, when you take only 4.5% of that and try to operate off that, that's kind of where we are right now, is we're trying to work towards an endowment goal. And what I've realized is really all you have to do is ask companies. I've been so shocked at how willing they are to pay to put on events or pay for the actual internships. Like we were like, my gosh, we spent $500,000 paying student athletes to go work, when in reality, a lot of these companies are now offering to just pay for it themselves. And so us fundraiser backgrounds, I don't have a problem asking, luckily, but it's just been amazing at how willing they are. Like DSW put on a huge event where they brought all of their VPs in, and we didn't have to pay for a thing. So I think there are ways, just asking.
Yeah, I would echo.
Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, sorry about that, Heather. I would echo what Lauren and Maddie said. I mean, really figuring out what your goals are and knowing that you can grow. So the Leadership Academy at Tech is probably 7 or 8 years old, and so none of this happened overnight. And there were always things we wanted to do. There still are things we want to do, but you have to start somewhere. And it's kind of like a snowball. It just gets bigger and bigger. So you got to have that first stone rolling so that you can pick up the other things. And you'll be surprised at how many people want to jump on board. And, for Lubbock, people wanted to help our students. And that really goes for students as a whole and student athletes. And so just think about where you can capitalize on that. And even if it's 1 or 2 things at first, it doesn't have to be the whole mountain on day one.
Thanks, Amy. And probably following this, just like Maddie said, the worst they can say is no, right? You just ask, right? And so same with this group bringing together the roundtable, like Jared did today. There's such a great network of people who are willing to share with you best practices, share ideas, what worked, and even more importantly, what they tried and didn't work, so you can avoid that too. So certainly following this, we can come up with a way that we can help share contact information amongst this network, so you guys can continue to connect and share share and ask questions of each other. But another question that came up here in the chat is it says they'd love to hear perspectives on websites for your student athlete development department. So did you create your own? How do you utilize other departments, and how effective is it?
I can start off, since we were kind of a new build. I guess we all were, but I have an incredible woman on the team that was actually a former student athlete as well, McKenna Lynch, who developed both our website, and she also developed an app that houses all of our student athletes' information, what careers they want to go into. So we were really fortunate that we didn't have to outsource that. So that was one of the ways we were starting to save money from the beginning, was her kind of getting into the weeds and developing all of that internally. So it includes like everything from company profiles, and then she also developed our Eugene D. Smith Leadership Institute website. That's amazing. We got a template from the athletic department, and then she autofills our template and does weekly updates on that as well.
For us, I think we are part of the texastech.com, so we're part of that larger webpage. For job postings and job boards, we lean on our career services, but our team is working hard to figure out what else we can do. One thing we're proud of out of the Suited for Success program is we have a virtual resume book, and I was trying to find the link to share with the group, and I'll send it in so we can share it. But that virtual resume book comes out of Suited for Success. So we have to create the resume, we critique the resume, and ultimately that book is kind of like a class. So the 2020 Suited for Success class, they're all in there. They can use it, they can share it with people. We share it with the folks that have been a part of the series, but it just gives a virtual way for folks to see the resumes.
For us at Colorado, so we're part of our athletic department's bigger website, so we have a page there. But the biggest thing that's been successful for us is we have all of our career development resources, and then job or internship posting from our network, and then also some from Handshake or other companies, are posted on buffsgopro.com. So this site houses not only the career platform, we have great resources that my colleague does a great job of putting on there for resume templates, anything like that for student athletes. And then it's also our event page too. So not just for our career events, but for leadership events, our first year program. And having that event RSVP on there honestly was the best way to get traction, because then we were tracking student athletes and we had a little QR code that they would scan in when they came to the event. So then we could start getting them just used to and accustomed to always checking Buffs GoPro. And then this year we were actually able to add on the way for them to actually schedule their one-on-one meetings with their LCDP reps. So whether it was myself or my colleague as well. So they had to log on to that site. They had to schedule their appointment through us, no getting around it. So then they were starting, again, just to be comfortable using that site and knowing, okay, all of the resources for everything that I need lives on buffsgopro.com that the team can share with me. So just having one centralized location that they can go back to, we saw a lot of success and increased engagement with that as well.
Thanks, Lauren. Next question up is I think this is to you, Maddie, because you referenced the LinkedIn group. It says, who monitors the LinkedIn group, and could you share the outreach email that you sent for sign up? So 5,000 at Ohio State might not sound like a lot, but apparently to some other schools, that's a big number. So they're curious what message you used to make it happen.
Yes, I'm happy to share the email, and we kind of co-manage it. So a woman on our team oversees like who's accepted and not, and that was one thing compliance was very strict on, was being really fluid and checking to make sure the people that are approved are only former student athletes or current student athletes. And then their other requirement of us was monthly education to everyone via post to everyone in the group, and then also managing and monitoring the posts that go in. So there can't be any solicitations. I have an open job looking specifically for a student athlete. Like they can post jobs, but they can't, obviously, you all know a lot of the compliance rules around this. So they actually get final approval on what's posted in the group, but we approve who's kind of going in and out, just to kind of split the workload there. But I'm happy to share the email and the education piece that we send out in it.
Thanks, Maddie. Yeah, following today's webinar, along with the recording, we'll kind of rewatch and see all the reference materials or ideas that you guys shared, kind of gather those and send it out to everybody, on the call, of course. Another question that came up was, how have you involved coaches in your programs or helping to get student athletes more engaged? So we talked a lot about student engagement, but how are the coaches involved in the career development and placement processes that you guys have put in place? Amy, you want to take that first?
Sure. So for us, we helped them see early on that it was important for our student athletes, and then also for us, and at this time I was still in development, it was a place for our donors and our student athletes and our coaches to all come celebrate together. So the celebration dinner quickly became kind of a keynote night, and all of our coaches, head coaches, were strongly encouraged to be there. They took photos with their seniors in their suits. At that time it was seniors, but all of their students at this point. So that was a place where we got their attention, and then we educated them. And I think, sometimes that's an important distinction, right? We had to get their attention and their buy-in to know that this was a difference maker. And then we were able to kind of give them the meat of the program and what the students were going to learn. And also we learned that they may not always respond, coaches, to the information, but they did want it. So making sure they knew what was going on in each session was important to get our coaches' engagement. And especially with Suited for Success, they've been really engaged. Our other programs, same approach, is make sure they know why it's important and then give them the meat of the information and allow them to have feedback. And with coaching changes or new coaches, we've seen that change, and so we've adapted, right? If a new coach came in and wanted something a little different, then including them was big.
Thanks, Amy. Lauren, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, very similar. I think a lot of it stems from the leadership too. So our athletic director is a phenomenal advocate of our program, and then our SWA too. So just making sure we're a part of some of those updates, whether it's with head coaches or the different staff members. And then the way our team is structured, our staff, we actually serve as liaisons for different teams. So I work with our football team specifically. So just making sure that our staff is really well versed and educated on the programming that we provide. And then to Amy's point too, being very fluid and understanding that with coaching changes or even with the same coach, their ideas will adapt and change too. So making sure that you show that you're an ally to them and that you want to help their team succeed, and being really creative and innovative in your programming and just delivering that information in a way for them that's easily digestible, and that they can see, okay, you're not making the student athletes come in on a Sunday and sit through an 8-hour resume review. You're doing this really exciting, great program, and here's how it's going to benefit them. I think that education piece, support from the leadership, and then again, just showing that you're here to help their team succeed on or off the playing field as well, just in a very different capacity. I think that's been the biggest thing in building those relationships and knowing that the coaches can come to you and vice versa, you can go to them as well.
Thanks, Lauren. Maddie?
Yeah, I think for us, we've really become a big part of the recruiting process with all of our different sports. And so I think that was a huge part originally, and getting in the coaches seeing the ability to say, on graduation day, 86% of our student athletes have a job, have been accepted in graduate school, right? It's recruiting, like everyone here knows, is all about differentiating yourself. And I think the coaches view this as kind of something that separates them. We're really fortunate at Ohio State where our coaches are evaluated on the student athletes' involvement in the Leadership Institute and their really just overall engagement in all of our programs. So there is some highly encouraged participation from the coaches, but I actually think that they really enjoy it and believe in it. Them being directly involved, we actually have the coaches directly involved with we have 2 leadership programs, and one of them is only for our captains, and our head coaches participate in that program a lot. Our former head coach, Coach Urban Meyer, runs that, and he runs it with a lot of the head coaches. So I think a lot of the coaches actually see personal value in getting to know their captains and kind of growing that way. So in terms of direct involvement, that's the only one, but we have fantastic support from them. And we always joke with them every time, a high level recruit commits, that means that they need to bother their student athletes a couple extra times for us when we're trying to get them to come to events. So they've been great.
Thanks, Maddie. With a couple minutes left before Jared wraps up, there's one more question that I wanted to ask that it's pretty, I guess, short answer, which is, what's the best method of communication you guys have found for your student athlete outreach? And Amy's laughing.
The silver
she's still
bullet,
searching
right?
for it.
Yeah.
I am definitely still searching for it. I think my old fundraising habits die hard. So I like to cast a wide net and encourage participation. But I realize that direct communication is beneficial too. So I think it's always going to be a juggling act. And I am still searching for the best way.
Yeah, same here. If anyone has that magic answer, please let us know. But we're any and all forms of communication, whether it's teamwork, text, emails. We did a lot of Instagram stories, what have you. Each student athlete is different. I like email, but we're all navigating and figuring it out what works best for each student athlete or team.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, I echo them. I have no idea. But we use Teamworks text messaging a lot. That's great. They don't respond a lot. They don't read them a lot. But one thing that we found has been helpful is being able to target them specifically. So not every student athlete receives the email about Buckeye Futures, only those that we pull from our real life app that want to, again, using example for tonight, want to go into higher education. Only those kids know that the event tonight is happening. So that is one way that we're trying to help not over program them. On Tuesday, it was our program was student athletes who want to go into the trade. So again, the kids that are now on the higher education one didn't know about the one that was happening Tuesday. So that's been beneficial. We tell them that if you see an email from us, it's personalized. We don't do mass emails in any form unless it's just to a team through Teamworks. So we're trying to earn their trust. If we're reaching out to you, it is because it's personalized to you. So that's been helpful. Helpful is a loose term. It's been helpful. It has not been overly successful.
Thanks, Maddie.
All right. Well, again, we're right here at 4 o'clock. Amy, Lauren, Maddie, thank you so much for your time. Everyone else, thank you for taking the time to join us. Obviously, no one has all the answers, but I think as we talked about leveraging resources on campus, hopefully we can build a network here and create some connections to, again, share ideas and just help each other navigate these challenging waters right now. So appreciate you all, and we'll send a follow-up email, but in the meantime, feel free to reach out with any questions or if we can elaborate on any of the information from today. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.